Hey, what's up guys? So we are going to be doing a deck profile for the Elemental Dragons. Now this is not the budget variant, this is like the highest of tier 1 decks, so a lot of players will say, oh, you've got no skill, and you know, me as a player playing the deck, I've played it enough to understand that, yeah, most of the times in the deck, the deck is pretty linear. It's just kind of make this guy, and cause problems for your opponent. But yeah, it's a very good deck, don't get me wrong. But yeah, like I said, if you are playing this deck, a lot of players will, you know, they will cry a little bit when you play this deck because it is honestly like it's too unbalanced. It really needs to like get hit like immediately. But anyways, that said, you know, I know that, you know, a lot of players are trying to build it, and I've had a lot of people request me to do a deck profile on it. So we're going to be taking a look at a lot of different OCG builds and variants of this deck, because this deck tops like regardless of what you put in it. Like I could put some really awful cards together and just throw in the Elemental Dragons and it would be good and it could top because it's absolutely amazing. Now keep in mind, all these you know, card choices are all from first place OCG players, so the decks are good. But yeah, let's get into the deck profile, and I'll explain the choices and the different tech choices as we go along. So first off, we have Red Ice Darkness Metal, and then we run 3 of each of the big Elemental Dragons, and then 2 of each of the little ones, except for the Tempest. Personally, for me, I think Tempest is fine at 2, but the OCG players are like, no, I don't want Tempest, because apparently they don't like the effect to adding any dragon type monster from their deck to their hand. They're just like, I don't know, they just don't like him. I don't know why the hate for the Tempest, but they don't really care for too much of the Tempest. Some of them that were playing like 1 Tempest, some of them were playing 2. Most of the ones that were playing 1 Tempest were also playing 1 Corseska. He's just a level 1 tuner that's also a win. But I personally like Flammable Guard better because I feel like Blaster can use Flammable Guard and he can pop Ophion, and Ophion becomes very sad. Plus, this card has 2,000 defense points, so you gotta weigh your options. Look at if you want to play the one that plays Guard or the one that plays the Corseska, because you know you don't really need multiples. But by all means, if you want to play multiples, play some what is it? Cards of Consonance, you can definitely try out. There's so many ways to play this deck, but yeah, I like the build that got first place that was playing the Flammable Guard. I think this card's better. But personally for me, I don't really think it's necessary. I mean, by all means, you can play it whatever way you want, and I kind of put this variant in because I like this one. I did modify a few things, like, for example, he wasn't playing Darkhold, but I like this guy's build with the Flammable Guard over the guy's build that didn't play this. Also, I like Compulse in the deck, so I was like, we'll put in 2 Compulse. But that said, next up, we have 3 Maxis and 3 Effect Bailers. That's it for the hand traps, no Trag, no Gores, because those cards are not very good in Mirror Match, because in Mirror Match, they will just be like, oh, it's cool, let me big eye and take your monster now. Now it's my monster. So, Bailers will stop any of the shenanigans, and Maxi at least lets you draw a minimum about 3 cards if they're going for a play, so it's a very fantastic card in that aspect. Great for the Mirror Match as well. Next up, you know, Heavy, Darkhold Reborn, those are pretty self-explanatory. A lot of the OCG players love card destruction. Personally, for me, I really like the Sacred Sword of 7 stars a little bit better. But by all means, if you want to play card destruction, go ahead and play that. You don't really go minus anyways. I mean, technically it's supposed to be a -1, but in Dark Worlds and in this deck, it's usually ends up going plus anyways. The only reason why I personally don't like card destruction is because of the main deck Maxis and Effect Bailers. Like I said, I mixed this one up. This is a deck profile from like multiple ones, but I kind of just incorporated them together. If you don't want to play Maxis and you don't want to play Bailers, card destruction is going to be much better for you because, you know, you'll have more dragons to discard and you won't discard your Maxis and Bailers. Because in Mirror Match, you want Maxi and you want Bailor in your hand. You don't want a card destruction in those, and so maybe you would kind of waste a card destruction essentially. You would just kind of wait for it, and you know, you want to be as fast as possible. A lot of the OCG players that are playing the Sacred Sword, personally for me, I would probably just I'd do that, and I'd take out the card destruction. But I just wanted to give you guys the example of, you know, different ways to play the deck. But yeah, you can definitely play the Sacred Sword 7 stars. Most of the OCG players are playing 2 to 1 of these. I personally think this card is great at 3, but you can only activate 1 of them per turn. That's perhaps why they decided to go with that, because you have super redo for draw power anyways. Next we have 3 Gold Stars, which is like the draw power that's even crazier. Also, it's really important against the Evil Swarm matchup. You have to take some damage for a turn, but then you go blast or pop that card and pop the annoying card, the Ophion anyways. And then we have Book of Moon. It's just a you know, versatile card, and as well as Compulse. Those are basically your traps right here that are not hand traps. These stop XYZ plays, and you know, it gets rid of this guy, which can be annoying sometimes. And Compulse is just overall really a well-rounded card. There's not a deck where I think Compulse is really bad against. I mean, even against Dark Worlds, you know, you can prevent yourself from taking some damage and you can just OTK them next turn anyways. Like, you can bounce back their Grapha, they could, you know, blow up your field, but it doesn't matter, you're just going to make your field again. So yeah, Compulse is just a really awesome card. Now, as far as the extra deck, we're going to go over some of the cards real quick. I'll mouse over them all real quick, and then I'll go over some of the ones you might not be familiar with. And now let's go for the monster. So Red Dragon Archfiend, if you guys don't know what he does, he's an older card. You know, there's always new players that jump into the game, so they might not know about this card. But basically, he's just 3,000, and when he attacks, it destroys all defense position monsters during, destroy all defense position monster your opponent controls. Oh, after it attacks a defense position monster. So, technically, if there's lots of the Draco Sack tokens, sometimes I've seen them have multiple tokens, but when it comes down to it, he's basically used for the 3,000 attack. And then Crimson Blader, this card is very key in the mirror match. If you're playing mirror match, make this card, and as long as you can kill something and send it to the graveyard, your opponent can't special summon level 5 or higher monsters during the next turn. And your opponent will not set cards. If you're playing mirror match and your opponent has Crimson Blader and they already have the effect, do not set your monster to prevent yourself from taking damage. I mean, unless you're going to lose from that, because they're just going to attack over you, and you're going to have 0 plays next turn anyways. Next up, Scrap Dragon, Colossal Fighter. Colossal Fighter is pretty good because he can point for point this card and bring himself back. Then they don't really play Stardust. Most of them play like the Flashy Carrot Dragon. Basically, as the effect of once per turn, he can protect 1 card. And then we have Black Rose Cataster. Abyss Gaios. I like how it says Gaio Abyss on there. Then 2 Draco Sack, and then 2 Gaia, the Thunder Charger. I know you're looking at this deck and you're like, well, what? I don't understand. He doesn't play any like rank 5 and 6. The reason why, I mean, you could technically use 2 level 7s and make it and do the piercing, but majority of the time this card is generally used because if you big eye their monster and maybe you use their XYZ monster's effect, and then you can just overlay for Gaia Charger. So that's the reason why they usually play it. And then lastly, Gemini Pearl, because you do have level 4s, there's always Monster Reborn, because they usually detach for Ophion anyways, and you can just make this guy, and this guy's 2600 attack. They cannot Fiendish Chain this card also, and that's kind of an important reason, because he has no effect. He's just like Beaver Warrior. He's that awesome. Next up, we're going to go over some of the cards you can main deck, by all means. Like I said, again, all these cards are used by first place OCG players that have been playing the deck, and they main deck some of these cards. Anyways, let's go into them. Of course, like I said, it's level 1 tuner. Also, this card has 2,000 defense. That's why I kind of like this card, you know, a little bit better. But mostly it's because he's fire, and fire works well with this card when you discard it. We're talking about card destruction. Royal Decree is pretty self-explanatory. Very great in the side deck, but some of them have been main decking it. I don't really think it's necessary. But yeah, if you want to, go ahead. Drill and Lockboard. A lot of players are main decking 2 of these just because spellbooks are a thing. Also, it stops your opponent from like adding like so many cards sometimes in, I don't know, other decks that search out a lot, but generally it's just used for spellbooks. And then Kaiku, so your opponent can't banish. It's pretty good, because you remember, your opponent can't banish, but you still can. That's the thing with Kaiku, which makes him pretty awesome. A lot of the spellbook players are playing this card now in the OCG land. Debris Dragon and Fog King, usually these go well with each other, because Fog King is a 0/0, so you can bring him back with Debris Dragon, and he's also level 7, so it gives you a normal summon to make like a Draco Sack, Big Eye, whatever you need to make. And then also Many on the Time Lord, just because it gets rid of Ophion. Ophion is a problem, but you know, usually you can just like wait a turn, like I said, just blast or pop it. Venus Chain, Light Darkness Dragon, Eclipse Wyvern, Foolish Burial, Gen X Ally, Duradark. This just pops the Ophion. I feel like this card's a lot safer because this card actually has the effect that it can't be, it can't be destroyed by battle or by card effects, so that's a pretty good effect, and that makes it a lot safer. Duradark, you know, you have to summon it and it has to successfully get its effect off, which is pretty easy. I mean, unless they, you know, happen to have something that can stop them. And then some players even play the Eradicator Epidemic Virus in the main deck because Big Eye is a target for it. And, you know, if you do this against spellbooks, good luck playing spellbooks. Like, you basically lost. And then also Breakthrough Skill is a very popular card in the main deck over in the OCG area. But I just feel like Compulse, it's just a card probably more of you guys have access to. But the way I look at it is, if you're building this deck and you're playing like the triple Draco Sack or double Draco Sack and all the big guys, you probably can afford breakthrough skills anyway, so you might as well throw those in. But like I said, if maybe you got really lucky, you pulled 2 of these, you've got 1 of these, 2 of these lying around, you can build this deck and, you know, just use Compulses instead if you can't afford the breakthrough skills. But anyways, that's been the deck profile for the Elemental Dragons. This is a very strong deck, like I said. A lot of players will be a little salty when you play it, but you can't blame them for it because it honestly is a really, really strong deck. Like, it's too strong to the point where I feel like it really needs an emergency ban list. Like, this card is too good. Also, Reddish Darkness Metal Dragon, you can opt to play without it. I've done very good without the card, and I don't think it's really necessary, but it opens up plays for like synchro options and all that good stuff. Also, a lot of the OCG players, by the way, are not even playing Dark Hole, but I thought it was a pretty good card, so I was like, yeah, we'll put it in here for the deck profile. But by all means, you can swap out a few of these cards, but generally, like, the first 2 rows of this deck are pretty, like, I would say, okay, let's do it. Let's move that. The first 2 rows now are pretty much meta. Like, you always play this. This is, well, actually, we don't really need Red Eyes too. But basically, the first 2 rows are essentially cards that you want to play, and then you can decide which variant that you want to play. Because I kind of like giving you guys the option, and I like you guys building your own decks. That's where you know, I think that it makes the game more interesting, where you get to decide which cards you want to play in your deck. And I feel like with Elemental Dragons, it doesn't really matter. You're just gonna win anyways, because E-Dragon's gonna be E-Dragons. But that said, yeah, just keep in mind, a lot of players will be salty when they play against you, but such as Yu-Gi-Oh, right? I mean, back in the day when wind-ups were a thing, if you played wind-ups, people would be like, oh, wind-ups! Unless, you know, you had Maxi Veiler. But anyways, if you have any suggestions for, you know, Elemental Dragons that are, like, new that I did not mention, like some of the tech choices that you can main deck, let me know in the comment sections below, because I love to hear your guys' thoughts. But yeah, this has been pretty much the deck profile that a lot of the OCG players have been kind of just, like, tweaking and mixing 1 or 2 cards up. But yeah, anyways, hope you guys have some fun building like the highest of tier 1 decks, and you know, if Ophion comes out, you can go ahead and try. Or Fossil Dyna. Fossil Dyna actually kind of hurts his deck a little bit, although Fossil Dyna does have weak attack, so this guy can run over it. But you know, anytime Fossil Dyna is there, there's always back rows, so just be aware of that. But anyways, thanks for watching, have a great day. Asian Eyes signing out.